The destruction of Lorient. The Inferno at the Battle of the Nile, 1798. On a scorching August night in 1798, during the Battle of the Nile, the French flagship Lorient met its fiery end in a catastrophic explosion that would become one of the most dramatic naval events of the Napoleonic Wars. The destruction of this enormous vessel, a symbol of the French fleet, marked a turning point in the battle, sealing a decisive victory for Admiral Horatio Nelson and the British fleet. The story of Lorient's demise is one of chaos, tragedy, and extraordinary courage, its explosive end echoing across the Mediterranean, etching its place in history. The Battle of the Nile. In the summer of 1798, Napoleon Bonaparte launched his Egyptian campaign with the goal of severing Britain's trade routes to India and expanding French influence. To protect his army and ensure dominance in the Mediterranean, Napoleon relied on the French fleet, commanded by Vice Admiral François-Paul Bruys d'Aiguillers, which anchored in Aboukir Bay near Alexandria. British Admiral Horatio Nelson was determined to intercept and obliterate the French fleet, knowing that without naval support, Napoleon's ambitions would falter. On August 1st, 1798, after weeks of pursuit, Nelson located Bruys' fleet. What ensued was a brutal naval engagement, the Battle of the Nile, forever altering the balance of power in the Mediterranean. Lorient, the pride of the French fleet. At the heart of the French line stood the mighty Lorient, a 120-gun first-rate ship of the line and the pride of the French Navy. At over 220 feet long, she was a floating fortress, bristling with cannons and home to more than 1,000 men. The ship had been launched in 1791, originally named Dauphin Royal, but after the French Revolution, she was renamed Lorient to commemorate France's expanding influence in the East. Vice Admiral Bruys commanded the fleet from Lorient's massive decks, a ship symbolic of French naval power. But as the flames of battle swept across Aboukir Bay, Lorient would soon become the site of unimaginable destruction. A night of battle. As Nelson's fleet descended on the French, the calm of the Mediterranean shattered into chaos. The British, in a daring maneuver, attacked the French from both sides, a move that trapped the French ships between the British guns and the shoreline. The evening air thundered with the roar of cannon fire as ship after ship unleashed devastating broadsides. Lorient, anchored at the center of the French line, quickly became a target for multiple British ships, including HMS Bellerophon, HMS Swiftsure, and HMS Alexander. The French flagship was bombarded relentlessly, the British guns pounding her with salvo after salvo. The fire begins. By 9 p.m., Lorient was ablaze. British cannon fire had ignited the ship's stern, where barrels of gunpowder were stored. The French crew fought desperately to extinguish the flames, but the fire spread with terrifying speed. The situation on board devolved into utter panic, with smoke choking the decks and officers shouting orders in vain. As the inferno worsened, it became apparent that the fire had reached the ship's powder magazine, a chamber that held hundreds of tons of gunpowder. Realizing the imminent danger, British ships began to pull away from the burning giant. The explosion. At 10 p.m., the inevitable occurred. Lorient's powder magazine exploded in a massive, earth-shattering blast that lit up the night sky. The detonation was so fierce that it could be heard over 20 miles away, and the flash was seen as far as Cairo. The explosion ripped through the ship, disintegrating her timbers and hurling burning debris across the sea. The force of the explosion rocked nearby ships, knocking sailors off their feet and sending a fiery rain of splinters and fragments into the surrounding waters. The mighty French flagship was reduced to a shattered wreck in seconds, her hull sinking into the depths, taking most of her crew with her. Only a small number of survivors clung to the wreckage as the water closed over what was once the most formidable ship in the French fleet. The aftermath. The destruction of Lorient was the turning point in the Battle of the Nile. The explosion demoralized the French fleet, and many ships either surrendered or were destroyed in the following hours. By dawn on August 2nd, the French fleet was in ruins, and Nelson had secured a resounding victory. The loss of Lorient was devastating for the French, and it left Napoleon's army in Egypt stranded, unable to receive supplies or reinforcements from France. The British, on the other hand, solidified their dominance in the Mediterranean, and Admiral Nelson became a national hero. Legacy. The explosion of Lorient became a defining moment in naval history. The scale of destruction, the lives lost, and the significance of the British victory were immortalized in art and literature. For years after the battle, relics from the ship were salvaged from the seabed, and the story of Lorient's fiery end continued to inspire awe and fascination. The destruction of Lorient is not just remembered as a pivotal moment in the Napoleonic Wars, but as one of the most dramatic episodes in the annals of naval warfare. It serves as a haunting reminder of the destructive power of war and the fragility of even the mightiest ships. This content has been adapted from the powerful features of Polyspeaks for You, South Africa's leading accessibility software. Learn more at www.polyspeaksforyou.co.za. We invite you to support this meaningful dyslexic initiative, crafted and developed by an individual who personally understands the challenges of dyslexia.